You close 40 tabs. You silence your phone. You put it in another room entirely. And somehow, 20 minutes later, you're still staring at the same paragraph, the same line of code, the same blank document, unable to think in a straight line. If the problem was really your phone, removing it should have fixed this. It didn't. So maybe the phone was never the actual problem. Maybe it was just the easiest thing to blame. Today, we're going to look at the real reason your focus keeps collapsing, and it has almost nothing to do with the device sitting in your pocket. It has to do with what's happening inside your brain long before you ever pick that phone up. 4 hidden mechanisms are quietly destroying your ability to concentrate, and once you understand them, you'll stop fighting the wrong enemy. Reason 1, attention residue. Here's something most people have never heard of, but once you understand it, your entire day starts making more sense. When you switch from one task to another, your brain doesn't fully switch with you. Part of your attention stays behind, still processing the thing you just left. Researchers call this attention residue. You close your email and open a report, but a piece of your mind is still replaying that message you just read. You finish a meeting and sit down to write, but your brain is still chewing on something someone said. This is why constant task switching feels so exhausting, even when none of the individual tasks were difficult. You're not doing one hard thing. You're doing 5 half things at once, and your brain never fully arrives anywhere. Notice that this has nothing to do with your phone being nearby. You could switch tabs, switch conversations, switch rooms, switch projects, and the residue builds the exact same way. The phone just happens to be the fastest way to generate dozens of these switches in a single hour. Remove the phone and you'll still switch between your thoughts, your worries, your half-finished tasks. The switching is the disease. The phone is just one symptom. Reason 2, your reward threshold has quietly moved. Think about the last time you sat down to do something meaningful. Reading, studying, deep work, and it felt almost physically uncomfortable. Not because the task was hard, because it felt boring compared to everything else your brain has access to. That discomfort isn't laziness. It's a shifted baseline. Your brain constantly calibrates what counts as rewarding based on your recent experiences. If your daily input includes constant novelty, quick wins, fast cuts, and instant feedback, your brain recalibrates around that intensity. And once that happens, anything slower feels underwhelming by comparison. This is why deleting one app rarely fixes focus on its own. The problem was never the app itself. It was the pace your brain got used to. Even without a phone, if your days are filled with constant stimulation from any source, conversations, music, background noise, notifications from a laptop, your brain still recalibrates the same way. Fixing this requires lowering your overall stimulation level, not just removing one source of it. And that leads directly into something almost nobody considers when they think about focus: the sheer number of tiny decisions your brain makes before you even sit down to work. Reason 3, decision fatigue you don't notice happening. Before you've done a single minute of real work today, your brain has already made dozens, sometimes hundreds, of small decisions. What to wear, what to eat, which message to answer first, whether to respond to that comment, what to do about that thing someone said yesterday. Each of these decisions seems small individually. Together, they quietly drain the same mental resource your brain needs for focused work. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, and it explains something confusing. Why you can feel mentally exhausted at 2 p.m. despite not doing anything that looked demanding. You weren't lifting anything heavy. You were making decisions constantly, and decisions are expensive. This is also why focus often collapses later in the day, even when your schedule looks empty. Your willpower isn't gone because you're weak. It's gone because you spent it in 100 invisible places before lunch. And here's the uncomfortable part. Removing your phone doesn't remove these decisions. It just removes one category of them. You'll still face dozens of micro choices from your environment, your inbox, your own thoughts. Which means real focus isn't just about eliminating distraction. It's about reducing the total number of decisions competing for the same limited resource. Reason 4, your brain never gets empty space anymore. This one surprises people the most. Your brain doesn't just need less stimulation to focus well. It needs actual empty time, moments with no input at all. Neuroscientists have identified something called the default mode network, a system that activates when you're not focused on anything external. It's responsible for reflection, memory consolidation, connecting ideas, and yes, restoring your ability to concentrate. The problem is that most people never activate it anymore. Waiting in line becomes scrolling. Walking becomes a podcast. Eating becomes a video. Every gap that used to be empty now has something filling it. and a brain that never gets empty time never fully resets. This is why focus can feel broken, even on days when you technically avoided your phone. If you filled every quiet moment with something else, a conversation, music, your own racing thoughts about tomorrow, your brain still never got the recovery period it needed. Concentration isn't a muscle you can flex endlessly without rest. It's a resource that depletes and has to be refilled, and it only refills in genuine quiet. So if it's not really your phone, what is it? It's the pattern underneath the phone. Constant switching, an inflated reward threshold, invisible decision fatigue, and a brain that never gets real empty space to recover. The phone is simply the most efficient delivery system for all four at once. That's why removing it alone rarely works. You're treating a symptom while the actual mechanism keeps running through every other channel available to it. So what actually helps? Not a dramatic detox. Not deleting every app and disappearing for a month. Something much smaller and much more sustainable. Start by protecting transitions, not just tasks. Before switching from one thing to the next, give yourself 60 seconds of nothing. No new input, just a pause. That tiny gap lets attention residue clear before you carry it into the next task. Then, lower your baseline stimulation gradually rather than eliminating it all at once. Your brain didn't recalibrate in a day, and it won't recalibrate back in a day either. Small, consistent reductions work better than extreme resets that collapse after 72 hours. Next, reduce the number of decisions you make before real work begins. Decide what you're wearing the night before. Decide your first task before you open your laptop. Remove as many small choices as possible from the beginning of your day, because every one you remove is mental energy saved for something that actually matters. And finally, protect genuine empty time on purpose. Not scrolling, not background noise, not a podcast during your walk. Actual silence, even for a few minutes. That's when your brain does the quiet work of resetting itself, the work that makes focus possible again tomorrow. None of this requires becoming a different person. It requires understanding what was actually breaking your attention in the first place. For years, you may have blamed the phone, deleted it, felt briefly better, then wondered why focus still felt just as hard a few weeks later. Now you know why. The phone was never the root cause. It was the easiest place to point the finger while the real mechanisms, switching, stimulation, decision load, and lack of recovery, kept running quietly underneath everything else you do. Fix those, and something interesting happens. Focus stops feeling like something you have to force. It starts feeling like something your brain does naturally again, because that's genuinely what it was designed to do all along. If this video helped you understand what's actually happening to your attention, consider giving it a like and subscribing to Mentally Craft for more practical, research-informed videos on focus, discipline, and building a sharper mind. And before you go, ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you gave your brain a few minutes of true empty space? Let me know in the comments.